Anglicans have been overtaken. The Catholics now outnumber the Anglicans in England by more than 2-to-1 among Zoomers and young millennials. Because even though America seems like it's a Protestant country, over time, the religion of America is unstable, and it's going to tend toward either Catholicism or atheism. Any return in the West to religion is going to tend toward Catholicism.
Michael Knowles is making some bold claims recently, saying that Catholicism is the religion of the West. But is this actually true? Well, in today's video, we are going to examine what Michael says here, as well as go to the actual evidence, the data, the stats, to see what is actually being done here. So with that being said, let's see what Michael has to say about this.
Brits are becoming Catholic. Weren't there some wars fought in Britain over Catholicism? Didn't the Catholics lose? Actually, a lot of people died because of this, and Britain is probably the Protestant country par excellence because Henry VIII solidifies the Protestant Revolution. How are they becoming Catholic? This is according to a study from the Bible Society, published this week. Anglicans have been overtaken. The Catholics now outnumber the Anglicans in England by more than 2-to-1 among Zoomers and young millennials. This according to reporting from the Telegraph. This Easter, thousands of people are going to be received into the Catholic Church, and substantial numbers of them are under the age of 35. So notice, the Catholics aren't exploding well, they used to explode because of like Guy Fawkes and stuff and, the wars of religion, but now exploding in terms of numbers and enthusiasm. They're not just growing in England because parents are sending their kids to Catholic school. They're not just growing in England because Catholics tend to have a lot of children. They're growing because of conversions too. A lot of people are going to be received into the Catholic Church this Easter, on this coming Sunday.
Now, before we pull up the actual data and stats, this claim that Michael is saying here is just not backed with evidence. It depends on who you talk to when it comes to people in Britain. I mean, if you talk to people in Britain, one person will tell you the Catholic Church is thriving, and the other person's going to tell you the Catholic Church is dying. So this is not actually backed by evidence. He's just reading a card that is saying a statement, but there's some information that's being missed and not put in this to lead people into thinking that the Catholic Church is dominating Britain, when in actuality, that may not be the case.
Archbishop Mark O'Toole of Cardiff says, when you meet them and hear their stories, they say they are looking for clarity and stability. They are attracted to the Catholic Church's strong sense of identity and clarity around the teachings of Jesus. I'm not surprised by this really at all. In part because I'm an American and I have read some of my Alexis de Tocqueville. Tocqueville predicted for America. He says, even though America seems like it's a Protestant country, over time, the religion of America is unstable and it's going to tend toward either Catholicism or atheism. And I think you're actually seeing that play out in America too, but you're seeing the same thing in Britain right now. Any return in the West to religion is going to tend toward Catholicism.
Now, there's a few things we need to address here that Michael is saying. Towards the end here, he says that any desire to come back to religion in the West is going to be a draw towards Catholicism. Well, again, in just a few minutes, we're actually going to see just how untrue that statement is. And then he also says that when it comes to America, people are either going to go atheist or Catholic, and basically speaking down on Protestantism and saying that religion isn't going to stand. Let's not bash that sect of religion and just be super biased. And that's exactly what Michael's doing here. He's being extremely biased because he's Catholic, but he's not being genuinely honest here because he's withholding the actual facts.
I think that's in part, I being Catholic, think that's in part because Catholicism is true. And I think that the faith will endure until the end of the age. But even if you don't really believe yet, or you have some faith, but you're not Catholic or whatever, one of the reasons you might agree with my assessment as well is because Catholicism has endured, the Catholic Church, love it or hate it, has endured from antiquity. It's the only institution in the West that has endured since antiquity. And so for younger people who want clarity, who want stability, who are considering these eternal questions for the first time after decades of imposed ignorance and glibness and shallowness, they are probably going to tend toward the most enduring, stable, sturdy kinds of religion in the West. And that really comes down to one, and that's Catholicism. This is really no knock on my Methodist friends say, but there will not be a civilization-wide Methodist revival, and that is what's going to bring everyone. It's just not going. It's not going to happen. Okay, it's not to say that people won't return to some degree to the mainline Protestant churches or to the evangelical Protestant churches or anything like that. It's just to say, if you're really looking to return, all caps with a V instead of a U, return to tradition, return to our civilization, you're likely going to see people tending toward the ancient, enduring church with the smells and the bells.
So let's test what Michael's saying here with a few details that pull up the evidence. Roughly 48.9% of Americans are Protestant, 23% are Catholic, 1.8 are Mormons, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Christianity was introduced during the period of European colonization. The United States has the world's largest Christian population. So when we simply just do our research, we're going to see a drastic change in percentage with Protestants and Catholics. But that's not all. Now, we're going to look at this chart, and this chart is going to give us some detail, some more detail on when they grew up, what religion they were, and what religion they are currently. And so, with that, take a look at this chart. You're going to see on the left, you're going to see Protestant, Catholic. We're not going to look at the other ones because those ones are just not the focus right now. But Protestants, as a childhood religion, 46% of people were Protestant growing up. Now, how many of those people are still Protestant to this day? The data shows 40% are. So that's a 13.7 drop off. Now, for the Catholics, we have 30.2% were Catholic growing up. And currently, 18.9% are Catholic now. That's a 12.8 drop off, which is quite substantial on both, but telling on the Catholic side. And now we're going to pull up another chart that's going to show us even more details that's going to might stun our Catholic friends. So with that, we're going to see Catholicism has lost 8.4 people for every person it has gained through religious switching in the US. So we're going to see the ratio of change with Protestants and Catholics. So the left side is the people who have left, and the right side is the people who have joined. So for every 100 people who join the Protestant church, 180 leave. Now, for every 100 who join the Catholic church, 840 people leave. This is substantial. Michael is not being honest here. In fact, Trent Horn came out with a video saying how Catholicism is actually dying, and that's coming from a Catholic. So at least he's being genuine. At least Trent Horn is being honest. Michael Knowles is not being honest. He's not being genuine. The reality is, guys, is there's this odd trend going on right now that is trying to link Protestants and Catholics together, trying to force something that just shouldn't be forced. When Protestants and Catholics have such strong disagreements on very serious theological and doctrinal issues. The Catholic Church is going to submit and say the Pope, traditions, and the Church Fathers are our ultimate authority. The Catholic Church is going to pray to saints like Mary and Peter, Paul, John, etc., hoping that they would intercede for them and make their requests known to the Lord. Catholics are going to view communion, or as they call it, the Eucharist, as the actual transformation of the body and blood of Christ, that the bread and wine transform into the actual body and blood of Christ. They believe that you have to be baptized in order to be saved. The Catholic Church does teach a works-based salvation. Go confess your sins to a priest. Go say your Hail Marys. Submit to the Pope. Submit to tradition. We need to understand that we as Protestants, we can't link with that. That's opposite of what we read about, what Jesus taught and what the apostles taught. That does not align with the true biblical teaching on salvation and the church that we read about. And Catholics would look at me as a Protestant and say, I have grave error in different things that I'm believing and saying and doing. And so with that, guys, we need to make sure when we do a video like Michael Knowles that we're just more honest and genuine.